apampiche sahitāṃ bāsamano dhammassa hoti anudammachari ragancha dosancha pahaya mohang sam appajano suvimutta chitta anupadiyano idhava hurangva sa bhāgavā samanyassa hoti. So this verse is a little longer than the previous verse, verse 19, but it has a very similar structure. We will tackle these parts in a slightly different order from last time. And of course, just to state the obvious, we aren't actually making a formal written translation. We are trying to understand how the Pali fits together and get the meaning that way. So this time, let's start with our participle here. And I know in Greek, this is referred to as a circumstantial participle. So it is describing the circumstances or giving us more information about the actual subject that we're going to encounter in a minute. And we'll base this on the last verse. So we'll say, although one speaks, this is basamano, apampi sahitāṃ, a little bit of the canon. So this contrasts with last time where someone spoke bahung sahitāṃ. And here's our P again. So this is the second case. This is the second bullet point, and we're really just not going to translate it. We're just going to notice that it is giving us the second of these two cases. Up a small little, next to nothing, insignificant. Then we'll go on. If, we've got our che here, if anudammachari. So this word is broken up into three parts. Chari means living, behaving, practicing. And by the way, this type of compound would be not only a tapurisa, but also a bahubihi. So it is really functioning like an adjective. It's pointing to something other than itself. It's pointing to a person living or walking or practicing anudhamma. So anu is a prefix meaning along, according to, in conformity with. It is cognate with the Greek ano, which also means like up, along or up. So anudhamma means in accordance with the dharma, the teaching. One who practices in accordance with the teaching. Now here, this next part, I am not going to lie, it's a little difficult to get it into English. And I think if you look at many translations, it's sort of not included. We can get the meaning. So if a person practicing in accordance with the true teaching, with the Dharma, is hoti, and then dhammasa is just Dharma, the teaching, and this is genitive, is of the Dharma. Putting that in English like that might seem a little bit of overkill on Dhamma or the teaching. And I think sometimes if one practices in accord with the Dharma, that seems to give us the complete meaning. I did see one translation where it seemed like if a person goes from teaching to teaching, or something like that. So taking, I think, dhammasa as a dative, which it could be in form. But in general, I would just say we get the total meaning if a person leads a life in accordance with the teaching. And of course, keeping in mind at this circumstantial, although reciting a little bit of the canon. And now in the second line, we have pahaya, which is the absolutive from pajahati, to renounce, give up, abandon, let go of. So having abandoned, and now we get what in Mahayana, I believe, are referred to as the three poisons, or these are the three unwholesome roots, ragancha, dosancha, mohang. First of all, we should just notice that we have this cha and cha, so that is turning ragang into ragan, and likewise we get this form dosan. The cha is transforming that into the corresponding nasal, the n. So these three are the object. These three words, ragan, dosan, and mohang, are the object of pahaya. Having given up ragang, which is passion, lust, excitement. I think we've talked elsewhere where this actually means color, but also the musical modes, the ragas. Dosa is anger, ill will, malice, hatred. Mohang is delusion. Now notice something here that the Buddha is saying, having abandoned, not having gotten rid of or gotten out from under or escaped. These are things that we are holding on to. As much as we might want to deny that, at least my experience is that these are things that we hold on to, and we must let go of them. We must give them up. So having abandoned these three unwholesome roots, samapajano. Now that is from sama and pajano, which comes from pajanati, altogether meaning having right knowledge. This is referring to the person again. And then suvi mutta chitto. Here I'm taking chitto as a nominative. You look that up, it's usually chitta, but it seems like in compounds it becomes chitto. I could be wrong about that, and I welcome corrections, certainly welcome a correction on that. Here I would say we would have to understand whose, like atassa, whose mind, chitto, and then in this compound, mutta, or vimutta means freed, and su vimutta, well freed. That vimutta comes from vimunchati, and of course su we've encountered in this chapter in the words suchanang and sukang, and it's a prefix, of course, meaning well or good. Anupadiyano. So this is a middle past participle from upadiyati, meaning to cling or to grasp, take hold of. And with our prefix a, and because upadiyano starts with a vowel, it becomes un. So this is nominative singular, masculine, still referring back to our anudammachari, this person not clinging, or not having clung and still not clinging. Idha va hurang va. Idha we've come across quite a bit here, and then this structure va, a va, b va, just means either or we can just translate it as or. So not having clung, not clinging here in this life, or, now hurang, according to the Pali English Dictionary, is of uncertain origin, but it clearly means in another existence, in another world, maybe in the next world. And so finally, we come to the conclusion of the condition. Everything that went before was part of the condition, the protasis, and what's going to come next, what's going to flow out of that, is the apodosis. If you're interested in such jargon, we certainly don't need to know those terms to deal with and understand conditions, that's for sure. Sa. Now this is the same as so, a demonstrative pronoun, masculine nominative singular. He, that one, we might just say he. Let's go to the end and get our verb here, hoti, third person singular, present active indicative, to be. So he is, and then we go back to bhāgavā, not bhāgavā, as we said last time. Bhāgavā means a sharer in, or someone sharing in, partakes of. He is one who shares in samanyasa. This is the genitive of samanya, literally samanaship, a samana being a recluse, one who's gone into the whole homeless life to practice the spiritual life. He is a sharer in the spiritual life, we might say, the holy life. And this brings us to the conclusion of the first vagga of the Dhammapada, the yamaka vaggo, the pairs. There will soon in air quotes, be an esoteric babble episode which will recap this entire chapter. One thing I'll mention here is this verse 20 concludes the journey started actually in verse 2, where we talk about the person who speaks or acts, basati va karoti va manasa pasanena, with a bright, pure, positive mind. And it's an interesting exercise to go through and put these verses in separate columns. We have verse 1, 3, etc. Now, and remember, some of these are kind of parenthetical, so I think it's 5 and 6 that aren't part of the pair structure. But you can go through and put these in columns and see what results from the negative, spoiled mind path, the corrupted mind path versus the bright, pure mind. This, of course, is where we want to end up. This is the path that leads to an end to suffering.